So this was really hard for me. I was going back and forth with myself. I changed my mind like 4 different times, changed it 3 times yesterday, decided today. I woke up and exactly what Johnny said. Dude, proper dip. I'm sorry. Like, I can see this going the entire mile. I have the Shock taking this, but I'm really expecting this game to really go the distance, Necro. What about you?
Same here. I mean, this is the first match of the Overwatch League season 2023, and we are in for such a good match because I think it speaks volumes that we've got 2 teams that people seem to have high on the power rankings going into the season start. So now that we're kicking things off here on Antarctic Peninsula in our first to 3 series, Vicky, I feel like this is where we get to see a lot of the rest of the series right now. We get a good taste here.
Yeah, I honestly highlighted it perfectly. Defiant have had so much history together. Literally, American Tornado is back in the spirit of the Toronto Defiant. But the Shock could say the same thing. Yeah, this is a team of rookies, but this is the team of rookies coming in from O2 Blast, the team that is known for creating legends. Proper coming in from O2 Blast the year before last. You know, you're going to see Finn coming out too, who stayed on the Shock with Proper. I'm so excited to see this look from Shock because no ping. Yay, we always love that as we go into our first map here on Antarctic Peninsula.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up about the Contenders talent because we do have that rich storyline here, but I think even more importantly, we're looking at some rookies making their debut on the San Francisco Shock, and don't we love those storylines when we get to see how these new players approach their Overwatch League careers. I love this shot, observers. You guys are giving us such a treat with the penguin in the background as we open the gates and get things started. This is a look that we were potentially expecting to see here come out from the Shock, maybe looking at a little bit more of just kind of seeing some of these cross angles being contested here on Icebreaker, Vicky, but did you have the Junker Queen on your radar? I don't think Shock did either.
Okay. No, they changed immediately. When you were mentioning, you know, this is a look that we were expecting for the Shock, the Junker Queen coming out, I was like, wait a minute. Nope, I didn't have that on my bingo card.
The DPS. Yeah, where was that on the bingo card for the opening?
I like the immediate swap up though, because now they were able to retaliate after seeing what Defiant was bringing to the table. Yeah, they got the point first, so we're already getting started here with Sam being on the Mei. He's going to be able to block some of those sidelines. Shock are going to be able to match that though with Pisang also putting down that wall. Look at the skirmish that we're seeing over on the side right here, but the Defiant are in control with Kalush being on that Reinhardt. We are going to see that Ram versus Reinhardt brawl out here too.
Yeah, I mean, Defiant able to beat San Francisco Shock to the punch here when it comes down to locking down that first point for control. And when you're also able to get this set up here with Ultraviolet's Batiste, that's going to be a quick amplification matrix.
So quick at getting that up. Finn's going to be able to match that immediately right afterwards. Jumpin has been living, but maybe with Vindame going down, Shock will be able to lose out on that support. Gonna have to do the reset with Defiant still holding true on top of this point. Finn is gonna be able to find Sam here. He was just about to get the Blizzard there too. Here comes Junvin. This is the issue that we were talking about before. Gonna be able to get saved there too with Immortality as the Nemesis is gonna get popped here for the Shock. They're continuously able to hold their ground on this point, finding that Immortality field. He's saying going down, but they've been fighting here for a really long time despite Vindame going down early and still coming down to bring in the sound barrier.
I mean, look at this. The fight's even still continuing outside of the point. Maybe Shock able to get the capture underneath the noses of the Toronto Defiant, but it's not too late after that you do end up seeing the point flip back in control of the Defiant. What a long, drawn-out fight, getting a lot of resources out of the pockets of the Shock in terms of the sound barrier, the Dragon Strike, and that Blizzard. But you're also seeing the Defiant still have tools to rely upon going into this next engagement in the form of yet another amplification matrix here to kick things off.
You talked about it perfectly there, Necro. It was the elongated fight from Defiant. They lose out on Sam here with Proper. We're going to find that pick, but it's the off angles that Defiant are finding. Kalush coming down with the Shatter. See Finn getting trade out as Hydrant goes down right after he puts down the Photon Barrier. Kalush falling incredibly low, but he gets saved by the Immortality field. With Ultraviolet going down, Defiant now down members. Kalush not having enough sustainability. Overtime ticking away, but the Shock finally managed to clinch it out.
Yeah, I think at this point, if you're the Defiant, you've done a lot of the heavy lifting here when it comes down to being able to get that point up to that 99 percentile. You've put Shock on the back foot here, and especially when you are still waiting for them to get ultimates out, a big pick could really just open things up here, Vicky.
This is why I was expected to see Hydron and Sam. Jake talked about it on the desk. When you talk about Antarctic Peninsula, you have a lot of these open sightlines where Hanzo is going to be able to be utilized amazingly. With that first pick, they have the number advantage. They find Heesang, and now Shock are going to be able to try to kite away from the other side, get out of the line of sight of Defiant. But with 99%, they can't get away for too long. Overtime ticking away.
Overtime ticking away, and no one else can get back to the point. The final pick there onto Jumpin. It's gonna give Defiant that first round, but Vicky, it felt so convincing there from Toronto Defiant. Not only did I feel like maybe they surprised the Shock a little bit in terms of what they wanted to run, they sent Shock back to spawn to rethink their approach to that first point, but they were just able to run away with things in terms of the value that they got out from their ultimates.
Well, we get to look at the little quick cheeky replay from Hydron as he finds proper right through the cracks of the ice. Such a huge pick for that final fight.
So good. Those sight lines. It's all about the sight lines here on Antarctic Peninsula. And so it was possible we would see something like a double sniper composition coming out there from the Defiant, but I think it makes a lot of sense that we may see a little bit more of a brawl come out here, funny enough. So we're going to see the Sombra choice here come out from Hydron, and this is actually a pick that we might have expected to see a little bit more from the Shock, knowing that they liked to rely on that composition when they really started to get their wheels turning when it came down to the Pro-Am finals. But we're going to see a bit of a switch here. Reaper not in tow. It's going to be more of the dive now, being able to coordinate there with the Sombra and Kaluja's Winston.
That Nano Blade going to be that win con too. Hydron falling low, going to be able to get away in time, but Shock taking control over the point first, while Defiant made some of those adjustments into their team comp, trying to take a different off angle over to the other side. Here in sub-level, having that high ground area too, you have so many different angles that you could poke from, and the Shock are just trying to keep Defiant in check.
For sure, and I think that's something that I feel like you can kind of use as a little bit of a taste of your own medicine, right? Shock able to take that first control and now just really locking things down from all angles.
Just get hacked in the back. Junbin finds that pick onto Sam. That's going to be big because they want to build into that blade. Ultraviolet going down here too. Junbin going crazy on this Junker Queen. Yes, we didn't have this in the bingo card, but they made the swap up in the first round. The second round, they bring it all out here, and I'm excited to see that look from the Shock, especially Junbin already having the Shock steady at 45% and climbing for this first point.
Jumpin's Junker Queen is so smart when you're looking at such a talented backline as OG and Ultraviolet. You know that Ultraviolet is one of the best Anas in the Overwatch League, proven last year, and just seeing what kind of Ana plays we saw during the Pro-Am from the Toronto Defiant as well. So when you look at Junbin having the ability to basically just negate that damage in the Junker Queen kit, feels super smart.
Oh, I like the different angle. Junbin with the shout, trying to take a different off angle. The anti coming in as the Kitsune rush up, and huge EMP coming in from Hydron. Now the Defiant are going to be able to take control over this point. The rush was already used up, so was Proper's ult. Now the Defiant are going to be able to clean up shop from the rest of the Shock, but Hydron with that EMP necker was what the nail in the coffin was for that fight.
100%! Hydron just finding the key moment to strike there, being able to grab such a massive shutdown onto the Shock. It's great if you have the Junker Queen to shut off the healing, but can't do that if you are dead. So Toronto now really looking at Sam trying to follow through with the Dragon Blade, and you also have the sustain with that Winston Primal Rage from Kaluj, as well as the Sound Barrier. Toronto Defiant are still up against a wall, but they have the ultimates to try to keep the advantage.
Ultraviolet got hacked in the back, and OG's going to be able to pop the Sound Barrier. Who's trying to take a different angle to stop Shock from trying to split push here over in this choke point. I like Heesang also making that swap over to the Sombra. Huge as the blade is popped here from Sam. He gets moved over to the side corridor. Sam isolated here. The anti coming in huge, 4-man anti. Now coming in, actually rather than jumping, could be able to get that anti with the shout here too. Defiant losing out on Sam and Ultraviolet. I was looking on the other side here as Ultraviolet gets taken down. Gonna make that swip over to the Kiriko. 88% to 50 here for Defiant, and the Shock still have the lead.
Well, Kiriko does give you the access to the Swift Step to be able to get back to your team as fast as possible, but with no sustainable ultimates here, you're really making sure you're not going to get caught by Heesang's EMP.
Oh, there's that EMP. OG goes down. Sam goes down too. Ultraviolet also in the line of sight of that EMP as Proper is going to clean up shop. He's saying going to be able to clean up the rest of the team as the Shock get that second round. But what an ult with the Rampage to take all of the Defiant out, get the anti on board, win teamfight after teamfight at the very end there for the Shock, making those adjustments to their own play. Even Heesang making the swap over to the Sombra to match that with Hydron.
Yeah, so like we were talking about, the Junker Queen choice here feels really intelligent, just being able to shut off that healing coming in from Ultraviolet, but when you are also able to pair that anti with strong DPS choices like Proper in the backline, being able to follow up not only on those antis, but also onto the EMP, like that's just an ace right there. That's the Proper we have all expected to come back in force when he won the MVP, and he also won Alarm Rookie of the Year.
He's a role star for a reason out here, and when I saw Heesang being moved up to the Shock, he's got a nasty Tracer too, but that Sombra also something else. Making the change up now, Heesang being on the Mei. Sam gonna match that. With these close sight lines though, and these corridors, the Mei is definitely gonna have a lot to work with the walls, cutting off some of those sight lines that Proper and Hydra want to take here on the Soldier.
Yeah, so we're switching over to the third level of Antarctic Peninsula, and this is one where you have a lot of different angles to choose from. And so I really like the Mei Reinhardt Brawl choice from the Toronto Defiant because you can play really close together, and I really like that Shock is going to match that as well with another brawl-oriented comp with the Ramatra at the front. It's starting to do some work here, Vicky.
Oh yeah, Kalu's getting called out. Sam falling incredibly low. Hydron being able to find Vindame, but the trade here, Shock losing out on Vindame. Jump is still alive here, and Finn already has that Ant Matrix to match that with Ultraviolet. The Shock are going to take the point first, and they're already trying to boot the Defiant off of that high ground, and that's the name of the game when it comes to this level here of sub-level.
Of course, and you can see the rotations already coming through as well as Toronto Defiant tried to bring the Shock back.
Comes the Ant Matrix clearing out that corner here. Finn gonna be able to get out of that line of sight for the rest of the fight as the Hydron gets taken out here by Heesang. I like the positioning that Heesang is, and the Nemesis gets popped up from Junfin. Kalu's nowhere to go as he gets deleted. Defiant having to reset here while the rest of the Shock are gonna be able to move forward.
What a great example right there, too, about what Jake was talking about, the Ramatra versus the Reinhardt.
Yeah.
This time around, after the Shock were able to capture that first point, feels like it's a whole different ballgame than that very first sub-map that we saw on the Antarctic Peninsula with Icebreaker. You just, when you get control of the point, you're really able to keep locking down all of these choke points with the Mei wall, and then Jumpin just gets to punch Kalush in the face.
Yeah, literally punching him right through that shield here, too, and Jumpin's about to get Annihilation ready. Proper on the high ground, getting into position. Trying to get that overclock ready here too. Fully charged up here. Sam also has that Blizzard to look out for. The Shock just skirmishing down the sideline. Here comes that Mei wall and a Blizzard coming in to match that here from Heesang. Junbin in the line of sight now, gonna be able to retaliate. Nice immortality field from Finn to help him out, but Heesang unfortunately can't live long enough. The pin coming in from Kalush, Proper gets deleted. Defiant coming out on top after this fight, having the number advantage. They needed this here too, Necro, because the Shock already at 81%.
That was a really, really expensive fight coming out from both teams, but you're right about the Defiant needing that team fight win because Shock, they were going to be on that last fight territory. One more fight could still do it here as well, and maybe it's going to be Jumpin's Annihilation that's really going to allow them to get back into this one and take this first map of the season. But Defiant aren't going home without a fight right now, as Kalush still has the Earthshatter available, could start to play really aggressively here and just bypass that Ramatra shield altogether to get all of the squishies in the backline with this ult.
The Vortex too trying to push Kaluj over to the other side as the Shock take a different angle. Whether they want to rotate onto the high ground, they see the Defiant gave up that high ground, so now they're going to try to take positioning on the top platform. The Vortex right behind Kalush. Here comes the Ant Matrix from Finn. Heesang gets called off despite that. Hydron getting a nice shot onto Heesang's head here. Defiant, I like the disengage here to then re-engage as Nemesis Form was called in. Here comes a huge shatter. Huge boop here coming in as well. Vin Dame helping out Junbin as a Nemesis Form runs out now. Defiant still not letting go over on this point. 97 and 98 now climbing overtime, taking away as Defiant are still elongating this fight, but they lose out on Hydron.
Oh, it looked like it was going to be so good there when Kalush was able to land that Earth Shatter, but Sam is still going to be set up for success as Kalush is going to be that mighty shield. Despite that, though, looks like even with the Blizzard in play, San Francisco Shock, they're still in this.
Oh, and the wall here too, overtime now. Sam trying to stay alive. The sound barrier from OG as Defiant stay in the game, flip the points. The Shock are going to disengage here before Proper takes that one last pick onto Sam. It's back to the drawing board.
I mean, at this point, though, it's going to be everything in Defiant's hands. Shock at 99%. Toronto still needing to win 2 more fights here. Hydron's been able to pop off when it's come down to these overclocks on the Sojourn, but Proper's nearing one as well, and we all know how that one goes when you look at Proper's stat lines from last season on this hero. So it comes down to these raw picks, Vicky, whether it's going to be with the overclock or not.
Oh, the thing is that Shock had the sound barrier. Vin Dame gonna help with that engagement right now. Ult coming in here too. Proper getting that pick onto Kalush. The moment that shield gets taken down, he won't have the shatter for this last fight. Overtime still alive here for Defiant as Ultraviolet goes crazy, by the way. Finds the backline here on the Shock, and they're still trying to stay alive here. Necro Finn finds Sam. Hydra now trying to take a different angle, trying to call out Finn. That's over to the side room. He gets it, and that's a huge pick here. Defiant now at 78%. When you are going to tell me that this was going to go down to the wire, Necra, I wasn't expecting it to already start in the first map.
I mean, this is what we expect out of 2 of the top teams in the Overwatch League season power rankings so far, and boy, are they delivering. It all comes down to this fight, Vicky. Kalush still has that Reinhardt Earth Shatter, should be able to get something done if he's able to land that into the backline, but what about this Blizzard from Heesang? Could start to shut off a lot of the ability of Defiant to actually play together on this point.
99 to 99, last fight here as OG's about to round up with that sound barrier too. Here comes the shatter to isolate Proper, the real problem out here, who had an off angle. First pick out here as a Shock take control over the point. It's going back and forth. Judgment at Pop Nemesis. The wall came up and they still come out on top. The Blizzard getting negated and the Shock have the numbers, they have the damage, and they have the control over the first map, taking map number 1 over the Defiant.
Holy moly, was that last round incredibly close. And the map overall makes me so excited about what we have in store for us for the rest of this series, because both teams definitely came here to give us a great show to kick off the season and also to stake their claim as one of the best to look out for as the season progresses.
At the very end, Necro, with Ultraviolet getting that back line, getting those 2 picks as well as Kalush out here with the shatter, there was so much in that last fight that went down. Also seeing this cheeky play in the first round, seeing that pick from Hydron onto Proper, those little nice sight lines. That's why we were expecting from Sam and Hydron to be the starting lineup here for the Defiant. Nice EMP also that came in. We also saw a huge rampage as well in the same round.
I mean, look at this guy. Look at this guy. Proper, able to just like put up the numbers, get the picks, and you can see how much attention and how much respect the Toronto Defiant were putting onto Proper's ability to really help to lift up the team's spirits. They put so much emphasis onto picking him. You saw that from the solo Earth Shatter there from Kalush, just constantly trying to isolate him away from the fights, just so he wouldn't have as much of an impact.
Yeah, he was also taking a different off angle too, so he would have been a real problem. So Kalush tried to isolate him, and it still was not enough. We're gonna go to a quick break. At the other side of this, we got another map in store for you guys. See you soon.
Caution, cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the. Wake up, get out the sheets. We came for war, man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put them in the cage, never let out the. I am checked to the noise. Can't stop for the talking. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch Mount, please use caution.
Welcome back, everyone, to our first match to kick off the Overwatch League 2023 season. The San Francisco Shock. They're up after that first map on our Antarctic Peninsula, and we are taking a trip downtown to Blizzard World for our second map. And with that, Necra, we're seeing some changes here from the Defiant lineup.
Yeah, we're seeing one change in the DPS lineup of the Toronto Defiant, and it's going to be Speedily in, Sam out. Despite the fact that Sam was able to put up a good performance there with the Mei on Antarctic Peninsula, we are going to see Speedily come in, and we were talking about this a little bit, Vicky, kind of expecting to see some heroes that are more in Speedily's wheelhouse, especially on Blizzard World.
Absolutely. I mean, I heard it from Kaluj and Sam themselves. They claim Speedily to be probably the best Echo out here. So, you know, we saw Speedily a lot in the Pro-Am, rocking that Tracer, putting in work. But moving on to Blizzard World, this is the type of map that provides a lot of those up in the air, high ground sight lines that you could really take advantage of on the Echo. And then even in the case that we see the Tracer coming out, it's a different mix-up from the Defiant, so that way Speedily can work together with Hydra like we saw them earlier on again in the Pro-Am. But man, the Shock. Proper is different. He still remains different after his performance last year, moving into this year, Necra. It's difficult out here. That's why you saw Kalush try to isolate him.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why we did see a lot of that heavy focus onto Proper specifically, but I think you also have to give a lot of credit to Finn and Vindame. That backline for the San Francisco Shock really set them up for success when it came down to being able to basically put the pins up so that Proper Hee-Sang could knock them down. And I think that when you see this double flex support meta, whether it's going to be coming in from like the Ana, the Zenyatta, the Kiriko, any of those heroes going in combination together, you're really looking at that just being able to enable the DPS a little bit further, basically kind of glass cannon in a little bit of a way. What I think is really interesting about what we're seeing from... No, I wasn't going to even go there, Vicky, because we're not going to get baited like that. What I thought was really interesting, though, is that when we look at the look from the Toronto Defiant, we're actually seeing Hydron on the Ashe. That's going to be the big one for me that I feel like I want to hone in on, is that, yeah, we were seeing a lot of Cassidy in the Pro-Am, but Ashe seems to be the flavor for this composition right now.
Yeah, after the nerfs that we saw there too, between the Brig, Cassidy, you know, seeing the Ashe coming out from high ground, no surprise out here, especially taking control over this high ground, trying to enable Speedily from getting onto those flanking angles. Proper gonna be able to do basically the same thing. Shock were very quick to also make the quick swap-ups after seeing what Defiant was bringing to the table here too. Very quick to make that adaptation. As you can see, Proper already putting down some of that pressure onto Kalush, who's trying to take a different angle. Junbin getting hit with that anti, forces him out, and Speedily is the first one taken down. He's saying they gotta look over to the side. He's right here ready.
Yeah, at this point, you got to worry about that Rapida because that shield bash is still going to stunt your movement ability, which may give enough time for Hee-Sang to make that snap reaction to be able to get those headshots and get those picks. So just like that, you're seeing Shock take an aggressive stance on the point where Toronto Defiant, they're going to have to try to find a way to get back into this with the Nano.
Nano boost coming in onto Kaluj, right on cue. Look at the pixels away from trying to take this point, get that payload moving. Finn's also about to get that Nano boost ready there too. Can't get singled out by Speedily. Finn on that off angle, trying to provide some of that support onto the high ground where Proper it is. Nice anti onto Junbin. As the Nano boost comes in, Junbin gets immediately put to sleep. Comes the Dragons coming in as well. Speedly's gonna have that sticky bomb ready. Kalu's gonna get demeched immediately afterwards. Hee-Sang is a problem that needs to be checked right now, and the Shock are gonna be able to get this payload move.
Yeah, as soon as it gets unlocked, you're going to see an immediate step forward from the rest of the front line of the Shock to be able to keep Toronto Defiant from coming back into this one with their ultimates. What a really nice play as well. While we did see the sleep from Ultraviolet onto Junbin's nano-boosted Diva, we saw the Dragon Strikes from Hee-Sang to be able to follow that up and actually push Toronto Defiant away into that health pack room, so they had to make that rotation around. It bought a lot of time for the Shock to be able to get this payload moving, and now they have a lot to be able to follow that up with. When you look at Proper with a Pulse Bomb, Watch out, backline. He's coming for you.
Oh, he's ready. Sneaky, sneaky, speedily. Ready to single out Finn, and he doesn't get the stick. Kaluj also gets hacked after Hisai made the swap over to the Sombra after having so much impact on the Hanzo. The deed is done. They got through that second checkpoint. Proper now trying to check Defiant over on the other side. It's Hydra that's forced to get away. Kaluj also gets hacked here. Fighting this 1v1 between Proper, though. He's got that support from Vindame over on the other side.
Yeah, so you saw the switch from Hydron as well, playing the Ashe at the very beginning of the defense, and now switching over to the Sombra. You just want to make sure that you can go toe-to-toe. So he's saying also switching over to pretty signature hero at this point, but fortunately we're not going to see any hits there from the Pulse Bomb from Proper, but it might be time for an EMP soon.
Hydron, Nano Boost, all right, trying to get that EMP online as quickly as possible. I mean, that's a good way, just putting in that damage. He's already at 93% and climbing. Gonna be able to try to get up to the high ground just in case. EMP at the ready. They were able to still hold the shock here despite getting that first pick on the Speedly. Here comes the EMP, finding 3, finding Hisai, which is big because now they won't have the EMP for this fight. Finds the backline, but they were able to get away just in time, but it still stalls out the shock before they go in for the re-engage. They have the Nano Boost and they have the EMP as well as Jumpin's ult ready.
Yeah, and that's something that Toronto Defiant can play around now. Because they were able to EMP Hisai, I'm sure that they were also tracking the ultimates, but now they have actual coverage and confidence that Hisai does have the EMP ready to go. So you can keep OG, you can keep Ultraviolet as out of line of sight as possible, but maybe you can even get a little bit of a cheeky Kaluj ult in there too if you really need it. So you can see that actually Toronto Defiant splitting up a lot with the information that the EMP is ready.
Oh, here comes the EMP. It's found Kaluj and OG here, but didn't get the impact maybe that they were looking for. Jumpin goes nom nom on the speedily pulse bump here. Comes the Nano Boost now coming in on top of Proper. He is melting down the backline. Somebody help them. The insurance policy is not in their favor. The remake also is going to be able to find Kaluj's mech there too, and the Shock are going to be able to clear out this next corner from the Defiant. That was all enabled with Proper having that Nano Boost on him and taking care of the backline that wasn't Defiant.
Absolutely, especially after, as you called out, the EMP maybe not being as high impact as Shock would have wanted. Toronto Defiant really playing around that with their positioning, but Shock had to throw a couple of other ultimates out there, like you saw the remech there from the Diva, and of course the Nano. And now Proper has a lot of setup with the Pulse Bomb ready to go again, maybe able to land that onto Ultraviolet or OG in the backline. That could really help Shock to push this payload forward. This is the hardest point for the attack to get through when it comes down to the defensive capabilities that are afforded on the high ground here. So they're gonna need as much firepower as possible if Shock want to sink this in.
I can imagine the comms are going crazy right now. I like the disengage from Proper right there after Kaluj got put to sleep. Here comes the EMP. It found Hisai and Jumpin. Hisai got away just in time. Not going to have that impact either here from the Defiant. That maybe they wanted to keep holding Shock here. Here comes the rally activated as Proper is just trying to continuously harass this backline. Speedly finds Finn though, finding that impact with the Pulse Bomb. Defiant are going to be able to hold back the Shock a little bit in that next corner as right now Proper is going to take a quick nap. Gonna be able to try to get away just in time. The hack coming in as well on top of Vindame. And the rest of the Shock are gonna go for that reset here, Necro. Defiant are able to hold them back, and they do have that Nano Boost ready for the next engagement.
Yeah, they have the Nano Boost, but they also, more importantly, have the EMP. He's saying is going to be ready to let that one rip once again. So I love the disengage to make sure that they aren't going to keep too many members fallen, and they're also able to get back on their feet for this EMP that's about to come in.
You can find an angle here. He gets melted. So does Shunbin. Proper continuously putting in so much pressure around that next corner. Now trying to take a different cheeking angle. Hydron says, "You're not going to find me." Teleports away as Proper was trying to isolate him. They note that he has EMP. That's why he's trying to find him out. Comes the Nano Boost ready. Going to continuously harass that backline, but has to get rid of that shield bash. Here comes the EMP. Huge EMP coming in from Hydron. Found 4 while Proper also gets hacked. Defiant, while they were on the backline trying to contain Proper here, they're also able to hold on the fort in the front lines, and the Defiant are going to be able to hold back the Shock.
This is why this point is so difficult for the attacking team to ingress upon. Look at how well Toronto Defiant is locking down not only the flank routes of this final point, but also the high ground capabilities. So you can see Kaluj just kind of being able to dance between the ledge and the ground, but also it makes it way harder for something like a Sombra to be able to find impact when Ultraviolet and OG are able to play pretty close together. So that's why you're going to see Hiseng now switch over to the Hanzo, because that pick potential is enormous, and we saw just how much impact that hero choice had on that first point.
Well, that nano boost ready here too as Speedly finds Hiseng. Kluge gets demech, goes for the reset with the Diva Bomb, clearing up all that extra space here. Ultraviolet is going crazy. Such an aggressive player, shining right through, being able to find some of these picks, but also his positioning too, to deter Proper from trying to isolate him when he is slightly away from OG.
Yeah, really great way to be able to keep each other safe and also make sure that Shock aren't going to be able to get this payload to its final destination. But they still have stuff in the tank here, Vicky. I'm looking at Proper with another Pulse Bomb.
Proper getting ready as the rally gets popped up in Dame. Overtime ticking away. He's just still trying to call out Ultraviolet, but he hasn't been able to nail him down just yet. The rally gets activated from OG. He's still trying to split some of that pressure and that attention over to the other side. Kluge gets hit incredibly hard. The Pulse Bomb does get stuck. Immortality Field coming in from Finn, helping the rest of the Shock move forward. Proper needs some of the extra help, but the EMP, huge, finding the backline of the Shock, finds 3 members, losing out on Vin Dame. Proper got hit with that anti at the very end, and with no supports left from the Shock, Defiant are going to be able to hold back the Shock from getting to the finish line.
Jumpin's trying their best right now, but he's unfortunately not going to be able to do enough except secure a couple of extra meters. But that does mean, hey, there's a chance that Defiant could take this map and tie up the series now, Vicky.
Trying to highlight those individual plays speedily with this Pulse Bomb picks there too, as well as Hydron's EMP. Huge looks here looking at the Defiant. Even every time that Proper tried to get onto the backline of Defiant, Ultraviolet was never called out. Unless there was that nano boost that we saw that one other time, even when he got hit with the nano boost the second time, he still couldn't call out Ultraviolet. The positioning from Ultraviolet and OG is fantastic because it's not close enough to OG where they could be shoulder to shoulder, but it's close enough where OG can help him with the shield bash, deter Proper from trying to isolate Ultraviolet. And even that, we see the peel coming in from Kluge to help out the backline almost immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just use those boosters or even just swivel to have that defense matrix available is really, really helpful. You can see Speedily having such a big impact here as well. When Hydron's able to hit the EMP, that's a huge shutdown onto the supports, just recognizing who the main targets in that team fight were supposed to be. Right? We can talk about OG and Ultraviolet being such a strong backline for the Toronto Defiant, but Finn and Vindame, they had such an impact in that very first map, and definitely need to try to shut them down in this one too.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Getting ready now. Defiant making the swap over. Want to see more of this Hydron Sombra has been able to pop off. We know the Shock absolutely know this matchup here too. Just trying to see if they're going to make some swaps here with Vindame. Being on the Kiriko this time around, you highlighted Vindame and Finn. Yeah, they had that huge impact in that first map. Been able to put in a lot of that healing pressure here too, just able to help the sustainability from the rest of the Shock. It's so difficult when Speedy's isolating you.
It really is tough, but I love this switch over to the Kluge Winston. Yeah, Kluge, very well known for the Diva, but has shown off some really powerful looks on the Winston as well. As we see this wraparound starting to happen as Toronto Defiant try to find a way around the point. You can see Speedily just kind of in a position where it wants to be able to follow up onto a hack that Hydron is able to do on the Sombra, but Kluge as well just kind of looking for an entry point onto the back line.
Boop him real quick with the melee on top of Jumpin's head as he gets taken out. Talk about it perfectly. Kluge Winston coming in for the Defiant as they got that first pick. They trade that though as Proper and Hiseng putting in so much of that damage. Vindame is enabling them here too. Defiant down 3 now as the Shock, yeah, they lost out on that first pick here, but now it's back to a reset for the Defiant in that first choke point.
That's exactly what we mean, right? Is you see the amount of support coming in from Finn and Vindame, able to keep Hiseng alive, be able to go for some big damage onto the rest of the members on the Defiant, and it's also buying so much time here for the rest of the Shock to come back and contest this point. The defense has been super strong. Yeah, they gave up a third of the point already to the Defiant's push, but it's about the end of the race. It's a marathon here.
Oh, sexy. Oh, quick sleep. They woke him up, though, here, too. Nice anti coming in from Ultraviolet, though, onto Finn and Jumpin. The follow-up from Speedly. Dragons get called out from Gisang. He is literally one. Ultraviolet finds him in a nice angle as OG right underneath him is going to have that nano boost on him, and they're going to be able to get this payload right out of the garage.
Yeah, you had to use the nano boost there as well as the pulse bomb, but it feels like it was the perfect tools to be able to get this payload unlocked, knowing that Collusion and Hydron are also working up to their ultimates now. So a great ultimate rotation coming through for the Defiant when you have the sustain, and that EMP could be absolutely massive. This is the point to be able to have that. Shock, if they're tracking this, could play around it, just playing on top of that pylon terrace, playing a little bit more spread out, but Hydron's built up to this one relatively quickly, so this is something that the Shock may not be expecting.
Oh, they see him. They saw him off to the other side. Also huge to note that Hydra could utilize that EMP to force the Shock off the high ground here too. Proper trying to call him out as he finds that 1v1 and comes out on top. No EMP push here from the Defiant here as Proper is going to just reset with the rest of the Shock. Backline of the Shock on control from this high ground here. But the Defiant taking their time to rotate over to the other side if they need to boot him off that high ground, Necro.
Yeah, well, you could see that the Shock were playing relatively clumped together, but now they're playing more spread out across this high ground. So playing around the fact that Hydron has this EMP online. So you're going to see the Defiant start to come towards them, try to group them up a little bit, corral them into an corridor that Hydron could really hit this.
That was a huge pulse bomb pick. Yeah, from Proper, and they just melt the floor with the rest of the Defiant. The Shock now not only saw right through Defiant's plants, Necro, but they were able to hold still on top of the high ground and find those picks one by one, starting with the back line with that pulse bomb.
Yeah, I gotta see the replay of this because he's saying basically just said, oh, you want to wrap around us? Oh, that's weird. How about I just kill you instead? So like a complete planned derailment here for the Defiant, and they have to go back and reset again. They've made very little progress on the second point now just because of how strong the defense has been for the Shock. He's saying it proper, just popping off.
Isolating the problem out here, and they try to do that to Proper. Nice backup, though. Proper lived with literally one pixel thanks to Finn in that huge anti, forcing Hydron to back off. Kalu's trying to go for the follow-up as well. Like you mentioned, Necker, they're playing so split up. Now taking control over the high ground here as Jumpin's going to drop down from the high ground. Trying to negate some of that extra damage here. That Matrix speedily trying to take a different off angle, but somebody needs to take care of Finn, who has this high ground and has a nano boost ready.
Who do you send up there? Like, you could send up Kaluj with the Winston jump, then you're vulnerable because you have no escape mechanism, and the wrap around here from the Shock. They just want to shut things down now.
Proper has not let Ultraviolet go. Yes, we see the two pick, the backline getting taken out from the Shock. That's huge here because Proper was so fixated on Ultraviolet. The front line here from the Shock was falling apart here. Proper literally won. He tries to get away. Defiant clear him out, and they're going to be able to clear out that second point too.
Oh my gosh, they almost got away with that too. Proper there just in case the rest of the team is able to come back and get the recontested before that second point is captured. But they bought so much time for themselves. The Shock had such a good stall on that second point that Toronto Defiant don't have much time left to work with. Only 2.5 minutes entering into this third and final stretch of the map. The box of victory is right there in order to tie up the series, but it's about whether or not they can get there. So we're looking at Collusion speedily really being able to put the damage down onto the team, and a huge antis.
Wow, finding three, found the backline, and is again the reason why Proper was able to isolate Ultraviolet. But while Proper is constantly on Ultraviolet's tail, even with these follows with the anti, the Shock's front line seems to crumble. Here comes Kalush popping the problem. He found Gisang earlier. They lost out on another member earlier before that here, as Proper is gonna have to reset too. The Defiant win another team fight.
Defiant are looking so strong right now to be able to close out this map, especially if Hydron's able to get this EMP online. There's 1 minute and 40 seconds left on the clock, and that should be plenty of time for Hydron and Speedily to be able to partner up their ultimates and get something done. Even if Speedily just opens something up here with the Pulse Bomb, that could be enough time for Hydron to get this EMP online and just finish the map here.
To be extremely important here too, especially seeing the swaps that we're seeing from the Shock between Jump and having the Winston. Here comes the EMP, but nobody there to touch! The EMP came in and Defiant get to that box of victory with nobody there. Are you kidding me? The C9's already? I mean, Necra, it's just the first series.
Okay, how many things on the bingo card have we hit already? That's what I want to know.
Nobody hit the penguins on AP, so that's good. I would have been upset.
Absolutely nuts, though. I feel like you have to give a little bit of credit there to Hydron and Speedily locking down the back line of the Shock just so they wouldn't move forward. But at the same time, I'm all here for Cluj typing C9mm in the chat there. So like, I don't know.
Because Sam was right there. He just needed to blink. Oh man, around Speedily right there, and this was so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate because they were right there to touch. But C9's already coming out strong here for our first series. I like this touch. I like this opening for the Overwatch League season, Necra, but the back and forth is what I was expecting to see as well, especially when it comes to the Shock versus Defiant. Taking a look at some of the highlights that went down over in Blizzard World, we saw Proper absolutely tear apart the back line here, but a few times we also saw the follows between Proper following up from Finn's and T's, but then immediately right afterwards, we saw Junbin unfortunately get torn apart, then followed by Kisang. We saw the swaps come out, but maybe just a little too late by the end of that map.
I think a lot of what we saw coming through in terms of hero swaps just had to do with the strength of those particular heroes on those specific sections of the map. So you're gonna see like Kisang with the Hanzo just having a lot of momentum to be able to get those picks and that final point as well as the first. But then the Sombra is just always such a tricky hero to play on any of those sections just because of the fact that she has incredible flank routes to be able to take advantage of. So it's a lot of kind of give and take, but I feel like Toronto Defiant figured it out, and that first map was also very close.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised here too, because going into today, I like being able to say that the meta isn't set in stone. There's a lot of creativity able to be grown into for a lot of these teams, but I was expecting the Tracer and Sombra, honestly, going into today, and Hydron performed on that Sombra. He hacked over, I believe, 30 plus enemies in that last round that we just saw alone. We saw the impact that his EMP had. I like what we're seeing from the Defiant, tying out our series. That means we're going over to our map number 3 on the other side of this break. You don't want to miss it.
champions.
San Francisco Shock,
Proper is a generational talent. He's going to be in this league for a long time.
Look at this guy. He's running down Bernard. Then he just charges the Sigma.
Completely uncontested, tearing through.
Coming on.
Indo tried his best, but it's not gonna be enough. Finn is feeling himself. Look at him.
Shout that only affects him. Rampage gonna catch on a two from Kellerman. Proper is there. Oh my. 여기 깔고 또.
Welcome back, everyone. That was map number 2 in the books in favor for the Toronto Defiant after already showing us an early C9 from the Shock. Moving on to map number 3, Necker. We got some changes in our lineup, though, from the Shock.
We do. We're going to be switching tanks right now. We're going to have Jungbin take a little bit of a rest and bring Max in for his debut on the San Francisco Shock regular season. Really exciting to see this tank player come through from the Shock because we're really looking at a team of just incredible rookie power coming in from their academy team O2 Blast. We're also going to see a switch coming through from the Toronto Defiant though. Also, Vicky.
Yeah, seeing the Toronto Defiant coming in. See Sam moving right back in alongside Speedly. The Defiant, in that last game, though, we saw put in work with the Sombra that Hydron was on. So making this change up makes a lot of sense, seeing that our map 3 is going to be Shambali Monastery. Very heavily defensive map. Always usually surprised if we usually see that third point, at least in my games, because that is so beneficial when you have that high ground on the defense there, too. So I'm excited to see how this is going to play into the Defiant workup.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Shock just a little bit more because I feel like when we do take a look at Defiant's lineup, I think we're going to see a lot of kind of similar feeling pieces or things that we are familiar with either from the Pro-Am or from last season from these players. But I think there's something really important to be said about the Shock, just kind of talking about them as a rookie team and also just maybe not having the same type of synergy as what we have seen from the Toronto Defiant. Max coming into the roster, I feel like, has a couple of question marks above his head just based on the performance that we saw during the Pro-Am when it came down to the hero pool that he was able to provide to the team and also when they decided to switch him in. But we saw a lot of Ramatra coming out from Max during those Pro-Am qualifiers, and so I would love to see what kind of defensive play Max is able to bring to the table and if we see a match of that on the Defiant.
Talking about the Ramatra and from what we've seen from Max here is going to be important, especially from the angles that you could take on the defense on Shambali. Like how you touched up on the fact that Shock have had that history of playing with one another on O2 Blast, so they have that synergy that they can work into. But I mean, the same could obviously be said about the Toronto Defiant. We talked about them earlier on. Literally American Tornado coming all right back together. The gang's all here. Now getting started here, Necker. Map number 3 after the performance we just saw in that last map. Defiant so quick already to get the first pick onto Vindame. No! That is not who you want to go down first, because now that's also going to delay the sound barrier eventually.
Yeah, I mean, the Ramatra Brawl really relies upon that Lucio speed in order to be able to get them around the map, and as soon as you see Lucio fall, it's like dominoes over here, Vicky. That should be a very quick team fight win for the Defiant to get out of the gates.
They took a different corner to contest them by their gates, and then the Defiant just wrapped around them and put them together in a sandwich. That was a Shock sandwich, and Defiant now are going to be able to clear that next corner here as a Shock going to be able to make their way back.
Yeah, and at this point, we're going to see a big switch up here. It's no longer going to be that Lucio Ramatra Brawl composition. It's going to be more of the dive. So we're going to see Heesang stick onto the Hanzo and, of course, Proper on one of his signature heroes in the Tracer. But it really comes down to whether or not the synergy is there. And so that's why we bring that back up. Is there enough playtime together to be able to make sure that these dives are coordinated? Max is already dead.
Sam is going crazy right now. The damage output already off the gates. He's been able to find over 1.3k damage, already has 4 elims, and they're already able to get that first checkpoint. Goes up on the high ground, tries to deter Shock from trying to contest him on the other side. We just talked about how heavily favored this map is for the defensive side. They have the high ground, they have the positional advantage, and Sam is just able to find picks one by one. And this is what we were expecting here too. With Sam moving in, we obviously were going to see that Hanzo so he can get on top of the high ground.
Yeah, I mean, the Hanzo there just wall climbing, even just being able to shut down that main window. Whether or not you're hitting your shots doesn't matter. It's the scare tactic and just the idea of the Hanzo being able to get a headshot into that window that makes you very, very scared to peek your head. So look at all the progress that Toronto Defiant have already been able to make here.
Proper gets that pulse bomb stick onto Ultraviolet, but it was a huge sleep onto Max from Ultraviolet right before he gets taken down. Defiant lose out on 2. They're at a number disadvantage. OG just trying to manage to restabilize here. Goes speedily with the pulse bomb special package, not going to land on Max. And he does find OG at the very end. He will be able to come right back in though with the Kitsune rush at the ready. And the Shock are just trying to find a way to split the rest of the Defiant apart because they're playing so strange on the low ground right here too, with Speedly now finding Proper.
This fight is so split up for all parties. Either you're going to be playing in this underpass or you're going to try to go above and try to peek through some of this high ground. But even still, look at how the Defiant are able to keep pushing this cart forward. They have so many tools at their disposal to be able to jump into the back line, which is making this defensive dive for the Shock much harder to run. They just don't necessarily have the breathing room that they would like to have in order to set up these dives for themselves. So the Defiant are just aggressive.
Oh, with a Kitsune rush to match that with the Shock and Vindame activating a 2. Here comes Max now with that speed boost. He is literally in the pit going crazy with Proper following up, finding the backline on up to OG and Ultraviolet. Kalush gets taken down. Much more impactful out here from Max to utilize that Kitsune rush into that primal here. Defiant now having to reset, but that was a much needed win for that team fight for the Shock because they were not able to stop Defiant from the very beginning.
Yeah, I think that fight win is going to be a confidence booster here, and it's also a way for the Shock to start to stabilize and figure out how they want to rotate through their ultimates for these future fights. They've had to throw a lot in the kitchen sink at this one in order to actually sink their feet into the sand, but they do have a pulse bomb, and they also have a great way to split up the Defiant so that the Shock can play on their own terms. Where are those Dragon Strikes going to go here? He's saying has a really nice angle to be able to make sure that the Defiant are kept at bay.
Speedly just waiting. He's got that pulse bomb ready, but Proper helping out Vindame, trying to get through that corridor. Gary goes to stick onto Max. He took enough damage right there to get that follow-up. Dragon trying to split up to Defiant. Huge anti, though, onto the backline of OG and Ultraviolet as Proper cleans up the rest of them. Defiant losing out on their supports won't have that sustainability, and it's going to have to be a quick reset right here. But again, it's the follow-up and the bread and butter that we've been seeing between Finn and Proper, that synergy that you were talking about earlier.
There we go. I mean, this is definitely working for them right now, and I think that I still had some questions about whether or not Shock were able to get these dives in sync, but it feels like they finally figured out their mojo, and that's a great opener.
Oh, huge, with OG Ultraviolet going down again as the first pick, even after that Nano Boost was utilized there too. Finn gonna be able to clean up the rest of the Shock, and it's gonna be another reset here for the Defiant.
Look how aggressive they're starting to play now, Vicky. I feel like they have finally found themselves in this map where the Shock were getting rolled over, but not anymore. They have a lot of foothold now to be able to keep this cart defended, and Defiant just at this moment having a really hard time figuring out how they want to be able to breach this. So they've switched Sam over to the Sombra. See if that's going to be able to help open anything up, especially as we're entering into sub 1 minute territory. This may be enough time for Sam to get an EMP on and open up the doors.
So the minute here comes the Kitsune rush from Vindame here. Ultraviolet and OG get taken down again. The follow-up between Proper and Max to clear out the backline prevents the sustainability from coming in from Defiant. Now we're down to 35 seconds and less than that here as Proper is just continuously following up and harassing OG and Ultraviolet.
Yeah, this is now at a point where it's kind of dire straits here for Defiant to get any more progress. Maybe this EMP comes online, but you really have to rely upon what you know you have. And so Kalush is going to have to try to get some sustain on the board with this Primal Rage. And Speedily has to land this Pulse Bomb, but look at how aggressive Shock are playing.
Oh, And he gets put to sleep. Sam wanted to try to isolate him, and Proper finds Ultraviolet at the same time again to start off this fight. Overtime taking away with the Defiant now trying to hold on to their life. It's Kaluj that's on the point. He can reset with the Primal. Max gonna pop the Primal here first. Speedly falling incredibly low here. Sam has that EMP like you mentioned. He was able to get it online for this last fight. With that first pick though onto Kisang, Defiant roll in. They can definitely maintain not just their ults, but control this cart and now move it over, but they can't get off with overtime taken away.
Nope, they definitely can't get off the cart, but they are able to play as a group, especially playing around this EMP from Sam. And even though we're going to see a last-second contest coming from the Shock, that's the perfect time for this EMP.
EMP coming in out here, and they find Proper here too. Max having to back away. Finn was not in that line of sight too. Shock now down Proper, are trying to go for the reset while Defiant press all the way forward. They got that extra time in the time bank too after getting that second point. It was looking grim for them, but those minor adjustments that they needed to make to really help them out as the reset from the Shock come in.
Not even just those minor adjustments, but it was the focus onto Finn specifically. I felt really opened up the doors here for the Defiant to get this cart over that second checkpoint. Finn is the main source of healing for the team when it comes down to the Ana being able to make sure Max is topped up on the Winston, maybe even getting a chance to help out Proper every once in a while. But with that source of healing gone, everything else starts to tumble. And Defiant just know how to capitalize on those big important picks.
Also gonna be important for Vindame to use this rush as he activates it right now. He gets immediately deleted by Sam. Kisang gets dove on by Kaluj. They trade that as OG gets stuck with that pulse bomb. Proper finds two here, but the number advantage still in favor here for the Defiant. Max gets hacked, but he was able to pop the Primal right before it gets right back into it. And with the Defiant, once they roll right back in Necro, they have a plethora of ultimates to work with here, unlike the Shock for this last fight.
Yeah, at this point, it's really just about playing around the central pillar that is Kaluj and making sure that Sam is set up for another EMP. What a smart choice that they have made in order to switch over to the Sombra, but it's got to pay off.
Oh, the EMP found the backline here. Huge here for Sam to be able to find that impact onto Vindame and Finn, but Finn is a problem and he needs to get taken care of like you mentioned before. Kaluj did get that follow, but he got put to sleep, so he couldn't find Finn, and nobody from the Shock is left to contest the point as Defiant are able to complete this run on the payload.
Defiant are looking very good right now. I think Shock were able to stabilize a little bit in that second point, but when Defiant were up against a wall, they brought out the Sam Sombra pick, and the EMP is just such a valuable ultimate to have to be able to shut down healing, shut down a lot of the tools in Ishiro's kit, and you just couldn't get the defensive dive going when you just don't have cooldowns available. So what a smart choice for Defiant to rely upon. And now we've got the side swap, but I feel like Defiant, they're feeling themselves right now, Vicky.
Yeah, and what was cheeky too about that second point EMP was my eyes were on Vindame and the Suzu, especially since he didn't get caught in that EMP. Such a huge outcome there for the Shock that still didn't even work out in their favor there. So Defiant's still able to clutch out that run on the payload, getting it to the finish line out here. And the fact that they were able to make those adjustments, like you talked about, Sam being swapped over to the Sombra, still being able to get that EMP so quickly. But OG and Ultraviolet were not having a good time with Proper being able to target them down every single time that Finn got that ante onto them.
Well, that's like the biggest secret when you've got the dive versus dive, right? You're always looking at how do you trade out your backline, because at the end of the day, you can't always keep them healthy, and you can't always keep focusing on trying to react to the dive that's in front of you. And so at a certain point, maybe you're like, oh, okay, it might be okay to lose OG or Ultraviolet here, or on the flip side, Finn or Vindame, as long as you're able to follow up with the right picks. So if you're gonna see like Proper going after the backline, then maybe you just sacrifice somebody to still get the job done. But Vicky, who we were not expecting the Junker Queen. I don't think anybody had Zarya on their bingo card either.
Yeah, I mean, you know, APAC is a different beast, all right? I know we've been seeing so much Zarya in APAC land, but it's APAC, you know? I was there for a while. We usually see that happen. Yeah. But now, with Proper being on the Reaper, this is going to work into Shock's game plan here. It's about getting Defiant off the high ground that I'm worried about, Necron. It didn't work out for them in this approach. I mean, Kalush can get onto the high ground just as easily to rejoin the rest of the Defiant, but the same can't be said about the Shock, because Zarya doesn't have that mobility option.
Yeah, I don't know what Shock are cooking right now, but I don't know if I'm eating at the moment. Give me a few team fights and we'll see. We'll see, yeah. I mean, hey, in theory, this is a really strong composition for them to run into something like the D.Va. The defense matrix from the D.Va doesn't negate the damage from the Zarya beam. And when you have heavy hitters like Speedily in your backline, you can use a Zarya bubble usually to try to keep somebody safe. But if your Zarya's dead, that's off the table. You can't bubble anything.
And this first point, if you don't get through this first choke point easily, it's going to be so difficult, especially when these ultimates are already building up for the Defiant. Yep. Speedly's about to get that pulse one. They're about to get nano boost for Ultraviolet out here. Comes that coming in onto Sam. Comes a nano boost now alive here for OG. Another be able to negate. Huge EMP now coming in though. It found 4. Ultraviolet got deleted. The follow from Max and Heesang right there as Heesang made that change up to be able to find more impact on the Sombra while Speedily is clearing up this entire room from the rest of the Shock. Finn Dame goes down, only leaving Finn to try to fend for himself. He needs to run away as he goes for the reset. Speedily cleans him up.
Yeah, I think this is like a really good composition in theory, but in practice it just doesn't seem like it's paying off so far. When the Brawl from the Zarya would love to be able to play in these close quarters, but then you've got Kaluj with the defense matrix, keeping Speedily and Sam safe, and the damage output from both of them respectively is just incredibly high. And with the rally as well, this makes it even harder for the Zarya composition to contend against them.
I feel like OG saw Proper get right in their face and predicted that Death Blossom was ready. That rally got popped. That was a 4-style ult if I've ever seen one. Huge Dragons though coming in, cutting off the rotation from the Shock, but despite that, with the Ant Matrix coming in, the rest of the Shock are going to be able to rotate around that. They just don't have their support ready. They don't have that sustainability. And it's back to a reset so that way Proper can get into position at least to try to take advantage of this Death Blossom with less than a minute on the board for the Shock.
Oh, it's really unfortunate that Proper wasn't able to finish off the pick there onto Kaluj before that D.Va bomb was going to go off, because now you still have Kaluj ready to go in the mech and buying a lot of time for the rest of Defiant to come back and contest this, as we've got 40 seconds left. This is it. This is the chance that Shock have in order to get this payload through this first objective. And you're looking at Heesang right now with the EMP, and you might just have to use everything here.
Everybody gets cleared out here. OG, Ultraviolet were the only two on the high ground, and the EMP was called in with a Death Blossom. A little expensive here, but necessary to get to that first point with less than 15 seconds on the clock.
Yep, I mean, you're still just halfway through this first point right now, and so the fact that you're at least able to hold on to the Graviton Surge as well as the Sound Barrier, that should be able to get you over the line. But is Kaluj hungry today? Is this Graviton Surge actually going to land? That's why the hack is going on to him first to make sure that the defense matrix is completely down for this Graviton.
Already out of the mech here too, enabling Max to get into that position. He gets put to sleep, somebody wakes him up right afterwards. Who did that here as the grab comes in as well? Rest of the Shock trying to get the follow-up with the Ant Matrix here. Proper finds Speedly. OG pops in the rally as a nano boost also gets called in from Ultraviolet. Defiant throwing everything to prevent the Shock from getting onto this first point while overtime is ticking away. Means Max would work into getting some of that extra damage with those bubbles set up too. Finn's gonna be able to find OG. The lackluster support now coming in from Defiant as nobody from the backline is left, and the Shock can finally take a little breather with some extra time in the time bank.
There you go. One hurdle has cleared the raid boss, and the Nano Brigitte has been slain. And now you've got to look at trying to get through the second objective. But that took a lot out of the Shock there. At least it was enough time that you can get this EMP and this Death Blossom combo back online. But this is where we saw Defiant start to struggle here, which was halfway through this second objective. But maybe with the momentum that Shock have after capturing that first point, this will help them to get through this point as well.
Oh, he's trying to check him.
Yeah.
Oh, he didn't catch him. He's over to the side. Oh, he gets that at the top of Kaluj and the EMP to fall up right afterwards. Speedily is able to go for the reset with the recons. OG also stuck on the back end getting hacked with that EMP. Proper finds Kaluj. No remake allowed, and Defiant are looking to reset around that next corner.
They have to at this point. If you don't have your tank, you really can't contest against this, especially when you also don't want to give Max more charge. Defiant need a reset onto the Zarya right now. That's so important. He's dishing out so much damage.
Splitting up the family here as a Shock. Avoid those dragons. Time ticking away here as the Death Blossom gets unleashed from Proper. Does find Sam here and then fights speedily right after he sends out that Pulse Bomb. No 2PS left for the Defiant as Kalush goes to the reset as well with the Diva Bomb. It finds Finn. Over to the other side is Proper still unchecked right now. Is still harassing Kalush as he gets hacked. It's the double whammy before Kisang and Proper are able to get the rest of this payload over into that second point. The Defiant had a good hold onto the Shock, but now with this momentum flipping over to the Shock side, they're able to get a lot cooking.
Absolutely, and now I'm eating what they're cooking. Like, this is great. This is exactly what we were hoping to see out of a composition like this. But now we're gonna see a big switch up here from the Defiant as we enter into this third objective. We're gonna see the Reinhardt and the Mei, a look that we saw already out of the Defiant from that very first map. But we do have Speedily picking up the Mei reins this time around. Maybe the Reinhardt will be enough, though. You've got this big shield to be able to contend against the Zarya, but you can't have that against the EMP.
Had it for that time. The Immortality Field also was already called in, but then disabled out here too as the rally comes in. That was a big EMP for Kisang, but Proper and Max going down here with Sam in a different angle was huge for the Defiant to hold back the Shock with 1 minute and 20 seconds now on the clock.
Even bigger because you do get that energy reset onto Max, but not going to be a problem anymore because you're also going to be switching over to the Ramatra. So once again, we have this time-old story we're going to be developing of the Reinhardt Brawl versus the Ramatra Brawl. And Max has shown high proficiency on this hero in the Pro-Am. So let's see what he's able to get accomplished here in this final stretch of Shambali.
And it's that matchup that we heard Jake talking about earlier on the desk too. It's that Ryan versus Ramatra matchup. You see the Vortex clearing some space right behind Kaluch. He needs to back up as that Anti found that snipe over on the other side of the shield from Finn. The Dragons as well, splitting up the Shock, forcing Finn Dame to recoup with the rest of the Shock. Trust trying to take different off angles here. This is why we see these open areas with Proper making that switch over to the Hanzo right when they got that second point here too. See the Nemesis form being called in as well. He's going to be able to hold back. 30 seconds left on the clock here as the Shock need to engage.
Ooh, the Dragon Circ's going to make that really hard though, and especially when you do have the ability to get those Hanzo shots through these shields. This is going to start to get a little bit rough for the Defiant. They've got to take a little bit of a step back before they reapproach.
He's getting his ult so quick here too. Payload moving into that box of Victor. Defiant need to jump down as they do. Proper fight Sam over to the other side. Great timing as Defiant were in the middle of that rotation to jump down from the platform. Blizzard and match that with the sound barrier for Finn Dame, but Max has that Nemesis form ready. Huge shatter as Max is unable to pull the trigger on the ult. Now the Blizzard comes in from Heesang. Can he be the savior here as Proper is still alive? Time is still ticking away. They don't have enough bodies left on this payload, and Sam is cleaning up the rest of the Shock as the Defiants are going to be able to hold them back.
Wow, a 2-1 lead right now for the Defiant after such a close map on Shambali Monastery. Vicky, this has been an incredibly tough matchup, I feel like, for either team to really start to pull ahead, but when we saw Defiant really get their wheels turning, they're turning, they're schmoving, they're in this.
This is such a good series to open up this season. Again, I knew this was going to go the distance. It was so hard to pick who was going to come out on top. But the Defiant are doing such a good job at not only calling out their disengagements, but the communication. I mean, that's the synergy that we were talking about. This is a team of players that have so much history with each other, spanning back the last 3 years. Absolute beautiful look here from the Toronto Defiant. I want to take a look at some of the highlights that we just saw on Shambali Monastery. But man, even making the adjustments in the swaps over on that third point nectar that we saw between Sam and Proper, when you have more of those open sight lines, you're not playing as close together, where the high ground maybe is as much as a detriment in those first 2 points that we see on this map was huge here for those adjustments.
Absolutely. I feel like we are seeing a lot of the just impact that Kasoris, specifically the head coach of the Toronto Defiant, has really had on this team. Not only is there a lot of familiarity there when you look at some of the players like Kaluj and Sam already having this kind of pre-existing history there with Kasoris, but you're also looking at Kasoris, just that having that brain that I feel like just works with a team like this. And so there's a lot of insight there to be able to look at Defiant just having great strategy when it comes down to these different map sections.
Yeah, now next up, it's gonna be our push map, New Queen Street, with the Defiant sitting at match point. Can they do it, Necro? We're gonna have to see on the other side of this break.
like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the. Wake up, get out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Can't stop for the talking. Hot like fire on the pond. If you wanna touch Mount Peace, caution.
Welcome back, everyone. Toronto Defiant sitting at match point now versus the San Francisco Shock. We're making some adjustments before diving into our fourth map that's going to be on New Queen Street if you guys are just tuning in right now. And Necro, we're already seeing some adjustments. We're going in with the back and forth that we've been seeing for Defiant. Oh, I was muted. All right, Necro. Sorry, I was hyping up everything. I know everybody heard me at home, but Necro, I was talking about how Defiant are sitting at match point now, making some adjustments. And on the other side, we're also seeing from the Shock also changing up some things. Max sitting out, Junbin coming right back in. You were talking to me a little bit about this earlier in the pre-show about how we could probably expect this happen.
Yeah, I think that when you bring Max into the roster, I feel like you're looking for something very, very specific out of the San Francisco Shock, but I think that Junbin has just been such a centerpiece for this particular team in the tank role that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to leave him out, especially when your back's against a wall. Toronto Defiant are one map away from taking this whole series.
Man, now it makes me rethink what I was expecting here from this matchup, all right? This, again, was probably the hardest series that I had to make my decision when it came to looking at our pick'ems. I'm still sticking strong. I was on that pick'ems train last year. I got to make sure that I stay on top this year, too. But Necra, Defiant are looking so good. I like what they have going on between swapping Hydron, Sam, or then incorporating Speedly into. It's been really good look here for this team, as well as the fact that we're seeing Shock try things out, whether they don't like what they see for certain maps, with Max trying out the Zarya at one point. We even saw the Junker Queen at 1.2 for that first map on AP. I mean, the Shock have things that they're cooking, but it's a lot of this back and forth that we've been seeing where they want to figure out where their strengths are.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up because I feel like the Shock were one of the teams that we actually saw the most flexibility out of when it came to the Pro-Am. We saw Moira come out from this team, which is a hero that we haven't seen a whole lot of, if I'm being totally honest with you, whether it's scrims, whether it was Pro-Am. It just hasn't been on the docket for a lot of our teams in terms of just a hero that they feel like could have a lot of impact. So we've seen a lot of this double flex support meta, which has been really helpful. And I think that has allowed the Shock to start to play around a little bit in terms of, okay, well, what do we really want to run here? So let's experiment a little bit with the Zarya or the Junker Queen, or just trying to find ways to break this synergy that we have seen out of the Toronto Defiant so far.
And even seeing the flexibility from the DPS lineup out here too. Seeing Sam, like he did basically in Pro-Am, sticking to that hit skin option here too. Hydron to get the follow-up with the Tracer. So much great Tracer play that we've been seeing overall in this entire series. But again, we are moving on to New Queen Street, and with those changes coming in, we do see Sam moving in alongside Hydron. Again, the tank swap up between Max sitting out, Junbin moving in. What can you expect from New Queen Street here, Necra, as we go into the potential last map if the Defiant come out on top?
Honestly, I don't want to call anything, because at this point, Shock have shown us so many different looks that we were not entirely expecting to see out of the very beginning of the season, that I don't know what to expect. I'm not going to make a call there. I wasn't even brave enough to tell you my prediction at the beginning of the match, which is why I pivoted away so hard.
It's hard. I mean, these teams are so good right now. When you take a look at a lot of people that are coming out with their own opinions on tier lists and where they can see a lot of these teams ending by the end of the season, honestly, with Defiant and Shock, they're up on that upper high area of all the teams that we have in the Overwatch League, especially seeing the synergy and history that both these teams have with one another. And again, we see Junbin teasing us with the Junker Queen. Not sure if it's going to come out just yet here, but I wouldn't be too surprised, especially seeing that we are on New Queen Street.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about this either, if I'm being honest. But I do wonder if maybe they'll do kind of like a switch up. If we do see what Toronto Defiant is running, do they feel comfortable with that? There is going to be that Reinhardt May brawl once again coming out from the Defiant, and Hydron also just sticking on the Symmetra. So a really nice way for them to be able to make these awkward rotations faster and catch San Francisco Shock off guard with those teleporters.
Especially around these early corners too, where the bot kind of hangs out in the middle. Great option, too, to set up your turrets. I like the different angle that Speedly's trying to take here, too. That Maywall is definitely going to come out in clutch, but Proper has been a thorn to the side now. Oh, I like trying to isolate the backline of the shot. Look how quick the Defiant were to try to isolate Finn and Vindame, but just as immediately, Shock were able to answer back with the counter-rotate. The disengage leaves Jonathan vulnerable, and so does Vindame. They took way too much damage, and that was definitely something that Shock were not expecting, but something that could definitely be utilized by Hydron being on the Simpig.
I mean, look at this. This is the switch up immediately from Jumpin here. Doesn't want to play the Junker Queen into this Reinhardt brawl. Instead wants to go for the Doomfist. How many tanks are we going to see come out from the Shock in this matchup? Because we're also going to see the Genji Tracer. Doomfist is one of those heroes that we've seen maybe be a part of dives from the past season. But if you're new, Doomfist is a hero we haven't seen a whole lot of coming into these first few weeks.
I was thinking about the Dawn tank out here, especially saying the performance we've seen
exactly.
with him. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's the embodiment,
times.
of course, right? See, the Ant Matrix called in from Ultraviolet to clear that space. Sang falling incredibly low here as they try to isolate Junmin. That's going to be something that Speedy's going to be looking out for, especially trying to pinch him with the wall. Comes the sound barrier from OG as Kolush falls incredibly low, and Speedly has that Blizzard at the ready. Tossing it right down to his feet here as Proper puts down that pulse bomb. Finn is forced to call out with the rush, trying to force a fight in this side room. The skirmish is real here, but the picks haven't come out in the way that they were expecting after utilizing that Blizzard. Kalush coming down in with a shatter as Dave gets taken out after using that sound barrier too. They lose out on sustainability, and the rest of the fire are trading that, losing out on Ultraviolet and Hydron. So the number advantage is still on Shock's side.
Yeah, they're going to be able to get back to this fight a lot faster as well, but it doesn't mean that Defiant aren't going to try to squeak in just a couple more meters of progress there. A little bit shy of that first checkpoint, but they've bought themselves enough time that they can make some adjustments of their own and get back into this one. So no more Symmetra. No more of the Mei either. It's going to be a full swap to a dive composition now from the Defiant, as we also see just the Sombra Tracer as the big duo here that we need to keep our eyes on.
This is a swap, too, that I was honestly expecting here after that first fight had failed them, too, because especially with Kisek being on the Genji, the Blade coming in, that's going to be an up Hydron's alley as he finds Ultraviolet, isn't isolated here. He's able to put in enough pressure, but he gets finally taken down with Speedly getting put into position with OG. Koluj also trying to help him out. Speedly going crazy with a quick 3K over on the other side. Shock had used up that blade, forcing Kisang now to make the swap over to the Sombra, so we're going to see that matched up against the Defiant composition here too. You can see with this replay, Speedly getting onto an off angle, sees Kisang vulnerable, finishes him off after he took out Ultraviolet, and then Vindame immediately getting taken down here too. The healing didn't come in just in time from Finn, unfortunately, after he was able to side switch up right on top of him. Now the Defiant making these swaps have put them in the driver's seat when it comes to these ultimate charges. Looking at Hydron already rearing that EMP.
Yeah, the EMP is going to be massive here, especially if you're looking at trying to get that very first checkpoint under your belt. Defiant just inching ever closer to that as Feely's also just looking for an opportunity to let this pulse bomb rip. Kind of waiting for these cooldowns to go offline. Jumpin is so vulnerable right now, forces out the Suzu here.
Oh, Ultraviolet now calling in the rush too. OG gonna be able to pop into sound barrier. It's gonna be Defiant pushing in the aggressive over this next corner, trying to find an isolated Vindame as he gets away. Finn gets called up from Hydron, who's also got hacked by Kisang, and Vindame being alive as he got away was able to pop the sound barrier, but the EMP is just better from Hydron. He found 4 there, costing Vindame's life, and Kisang falls incredibly low. Now Shock have to reset over this corner, but that was a huge EMP from Hydron.
Absolutely huge. You're going to see a little bit of defensive coming back in from the Shock. I'm really confused by that. I don't think you try to commit to that defense right there, especially knowing that that checkpoint was just right in front of Defiant's faces. But nonetheless, they are going to try. I feel like Shock at this point, they just need to reset here. Just need to reset, come back as a team of 5. Every time Jumpin just jumps in. I feel like Kalush is there with a response.
He cut him off by just body blocking him through that door, having Junmin having to go through the other exit to jump right back with the rest of Shock. Yiseng gets taken down as well. The Kalush is able to leap right on top of him. OG's getting close to that sound barrier here too as Jumping gets hacked, and hey, Greendecker, just that reset may need to come out after Finn also made that swap in that previous fight to the Moira now, and Proper does get that pick onto Kaluj. They're just trickling in here as Defiant still have that control over the bot.
Defiant are still going to be able to make some progress here, especially when they're just continuing to push their advantage. We're under the half-minute mark here on push, which means that when the team that's ahead can really just fight to keep the advantage. So all they need to do is try to keep San Francisco Shock from making any progress here, and doing a pretty good job of that right now.
Especially with OG being out of that line of sight of the EMP from Keysang that he just unleashed. He had the sound barrier to keep the rest of the Defiant in this fight. Speedly pushing all the way up, trying to find Finn. He's got the coalescence for that next fight here too, and as well as the fact that Vindame has that sound barrier, Proper finishes off Speedly because he was literally one now, but Defiant still in control after that previous fight. They used up that EMP as a Kitsune rushdown comes in. Heesang is going to be able to get taken down with Kaluj getting that speed boost and the coalescence from Finn to follow up with the sound barrier from the rest of Shock. They lost out on Heesang at the very beginning of that fight though, so they're playing at that number disadvantage. As OG gets taken down, they even that up real quick.
I don't know what's happening right now. There's fights happening in the small room. There's fights happening over the bot. They're high ground. Like, everything is being contested right now. Shock are just trying to claw their way back into this one with any advantage possible. They finally win this team fight, but that was a minute of time off of this clock where you have the Defiant being able to come back in with a Pulse Bomb, with the Primal Rage. You got Heesang switching over to the Reaper. With the Moira, what are Shock doing right now? I don't have answers for you. I think they're just trying to throw something at a wall and just see what sticks. But it's got to be something that happens soon. That payload does not have too much farther to go here for the Shock, but they've got to actually start winning these team fights outright.
The Kaluj is a problem with the space that he's been able to build up for the Defiant on this map, especially here. He's like swapping over to the Reaper to try to maybe put in some extra pressure up in those close quarter fights. Hydran did find two, but they trade up for two off of Kaluj and Speedly from the Defiant side. So sustainability though that the Defiant still have as Proper is able to still stay in control with the rest of the team and the bot. The next quarter though, rounded up from Defiant, they don't really have those ults other than the sound barrier that's going to come online.
Sound barrier is going to be so important though. When you look at the amount of damage output from either team, the sound barriers are going to be super key. We've got 2 minutes left. San Francisco Shock need to win this team fight here. They've got the Death Blossom. They've got 4 ultimates to do it, but sound barrier to strike first.
OG and Vindame to keep the sustainability with their barriers. Kaluj is so low, but the coalescence from Finn is going to help Jump and stay in this fight. Here comes the Death Blossom from Heesang. He reigns from the high ground all the way down below. Spins to win as the rest of the fight get wiped out. The Shock needed that, so that way they can have a little bit of room to breathe, as well as that next quarter that's so difficult sometimes to get across through.
Yeah, I mean, the bot is going to start to round that corner, but not before the Defiant are able to get one last contest in here before we see the Shock meet their progress. Gotta hit this checkpoint, though. And, Vicky, this could be last fight. If Defiant win it here, they could just win the map outright and the series.
Minute on board, 10 seconds left
EMP.
for that 1 minute. Yeah, the EMP is going to be huge here from Hydron. See if he can get into position. They try to dive on top of him. Speedly has that pulse when he unleashes. The EMP finds a backline, finds Junbin. That's 3 that gets hacked here. Finn gets away with the fade as well. Vindame still hacked in the back. He gets hacked once again from Hydron. The narrowed down focus between Speedly and Hydron for this fight is huge, and they needed that here too. Even though they traded and they lost out on Ultraviolet, it's Proper that's harassing that backline while the rest of the Shock lose out on their front line.
That was an important fight for Shock to win in order to match that progress and start to play for that advantage. They don't have that anymore. Now the onus is on the Defiant. They still are able to keep the lead at the moment, and they still have the Primal Rage, which could buy them time to get the sound barrier online for the rest of the ultimates that Shock have to offer. This is going to be very close to the last fight, Vicky. 15 seconds left.
Oh, but that first pick is so important. Necker literally down to the wire in this map right now. Kaluj falling low, Proper. They're finding Ultraviolet, still putting in the pressure through that choke point here. They get to that first point. They are able to surpass the fight right now. They got to get onto the point as overtime ticks away. Hydra gets there just in time as well as Kaluj, but the sound barrier is the difference maker to keep the rest of the Shock alive.
Oh my gosh,
taken away. Oh, they managed to do it at the very end. The Shock keep this series alive, tying things up here. We are going on to a map number 5, Necra.
Yeah, we are. Scratch that one off of your bingo card because a map 5 is on the table, and I don't know how this is going to end. It's been so back and forth from the very beginning of the series, and that last team fight gave us so much hope that Shock could get back into this one. It's been a hard-fought battle through and through, though, Vicky.
Literally down to the wire. I cannot believe what we just saw at the very end there too. Literally for the last 10 seconds, if we take a look at the highlights, the swap ups too. We saw the Genji, we saw the Reaper, we saw the Sombra from Heesang, we saw Proper still being able to harass Ultraviolet, we saw the balls coming in, but man, that Soundbear at the end too helped the sustainability for the Shock to stay alive in that final fight when the Defiant had given their all for the fight right before that.
Proper died once. The entire map, Proper died once and got 11 eliminations. That's massive. I mean, that is really just the big key difference here. And what we were hoping to see out of a player like that is that not only do you have the least amount of deaths in the server, but you're also doing some major heavy lifting for the team right now.
Proper is insane. The Shock are still in this series. We're going on to a map number 5 on the other side of this break. Welcome back, everyone. Our first series to open up the Overwatch League 2023 season, and we got a tied series on our hands. We are going on to a map number 5 as we take a trip over to Oasis. Believe no changes coming in from the lineup of the Defiant or the Shock, but man, Necro, when Proper says we're not gonna lose, they truly end up winning. What a push map that should have gone in favor of Defiant. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that last team fight looked like it had absolutely sealed the deal for a Defiant win, but then you look at just the, I don't even know what to call it there, the drive, the honor, the will of the Shock, and they are able to take us to a map 5. No hero changes, subs, I don't know what else to call it here. I just want to see what's going to happen in this map. I don't care about the analysis, get in the game, please.
It's just been so crazy high action non-stop here for this series, and I can't believe the survivability of Proper on that last map. Now, can that momentum carry over for the map that counts, that determines our winner for this first series to kick off the season?
Whew, what do we see here? I feel like we've seen just a hero carousel come out from the Shock. But this is where it really counts. Control maps are really tough when it comes down to being the final map of the series, because you can afford to make no mistakes. You've got to figure out what you want to go for right out of the gate, or else you give a lot of momentum to the other team. And we've seen a lot of hero swaps when it comes down to the compositions, just being able to try to play rock, paper, scissors with each other. But Sombra versus Sombra, it comes out of these health packs now.
The speed run to the mega health pack over to the other side was a quick swoop right underneath Hydron right there. Defiant immediately able to reposition themselves on the other side of that point. Let's not forget what happened in our first map of Control on Antarctic Peninsula with the Shock and Defiant going so close together all the way down to the wire there where they came out on top, trying to dive down to that one straggler over that Hydron was, but they find Finn over on the other side. Let's play a little bit of some traffic here as he's going to be able to rotate over on the other side.
Yeah, that health pack snipe was good because it did allow for the Shock to take advantage of the high ground, but then you saw a nice rotation from the Defiant to be able to go to the other side of the map and just use the centerpiece to be able to play around any of that incoming damage from the Shock. So Defiant are going to take a quick capture here of this first point and start to work towards these heavy-hitting ultimates. Yeah, Proper just needs to go for a reset there. You can't allow yourself to get staggered when every single team fight counts here. This is it. This is the final map of the series.
Mosquito gets wiped off from one of the windshields of that car. To be able to get that reset here, like you mentioned, Necker already 23% and climbing for the Defiant as Heesang's trying to get into position, playing into that win con with that EMP. Proper does get hacked. Hydron and Speedly have been able to nail down Proper a lot more consistently, trying to help out OG and Ultraviolet, but before that, Proper still able to find OG. Ultraviolet's gonna have the nano boost here, but the Shock waltz right in on top of that point to get control.
Nice quick take from them as well. It means that they don't have to use any of their ultimates here. And that's going to help them out a lot when it comes down to contending with the ones that Defiant have in their wheelhouse. We're seeing one specific change here in between these mirror matchups, and it's going to be the Kiriko from Finn versus the Ana from Ultraviolet. And so while the Nano Boost is going to allow you to keep somebody alive on your team, I feel like when you look at the Kiriko Kitsune Rush, it's a lot about trying to get out as much damage as possible and utilizing the speed boost that you get in order to play around some of these bigger ultimates. Ultraviolet's up to bat first, though. The Nano Boost is going to come online way faster, and Jump In just got hacked and deleted. That's a huge pick there for Defiant.
Big here, but even bigger for that EMP to hit the back line. Ultraviolet gets taken out, but they do trade that for Finn Dame, so number advantage still in favor of Defiant as Kaluj also gets hacked here. Forced to pop the Primal to go in for the reset as Proper gets taken down. Hydron again has been able to nail him a lot more consistently since the start of this round here. 55% of climbing here for the Shock as a contest comes in for the Defiant. OG has that sound barrier, but they don't want to utilize too much here. They want to hold that down for the next fight without having to burn through all their ults. But with the delay from the Shock and Jump In with that Primal, the Kitsune Rush and the sound barrier comes in from Vindame, and all that effort that the Defiant may have to put down now has to come in from their own sound barrier too, as OG had already used it up. The Nano Boost comes in too. They have no other choice as Proper makes his way right back to the point. Yes, Defiant are finding these picks here, and they have the number advantage. They finally get it, but not before you already see 79% on board for Shock.
That was such a long team fight, and I love that you called out the stall that the Shock were going for because it elongated the fight enough that it forced Defiant to use 3 extra ultimates they would have rather not had to use. And so that leaves them empty-handed, being able to defend this point from Shock coming back in, and Hydron's down already. That leaves Heesang with a huge opportunity to get this EMP online and just finish off this first round.
He already has it ready here too. Just trying to find where OG and Ultraviolet is. They already know that they used up those ultimates in the last fight. Like you mentioned, we saw the delay coming on purpose. Finds 4 huge EMP from Heesang as he cleans up Kalush, speedily trying to get away in time. And the Defiant now may have to boot themselves off this point now, give it right back in favor of the Shock, but they were still able to tie this up pretty equally at the very least to delay that fight.
Really, really big team fight win there from the Shock, and you can see the forward positioning that the Shock are going to take as well, just to try to keep Defiant from even getting close to this point. You saw speedily, though, zip away to the right, just to be able to try to pull the team back to point, and that gives Defiant an opportunity to come back into this one.
Oh, wow, that is big. They won't have EMP for this final fight. Overtime now taking down in favor for the Shock. Hydron gets taken down before this fight even begins here. Now trying to call out Kalush, wrapping right around him, trying to cut off his own rotation here as OG does find Heesang, so they do get that trade. Speedily falls incredibly low. He sent down the pulse bomb, but Vindame sends him away. Finds that pick onto Speedweak here and jump in at the Primal. Kalush is going to be able to match that equally, and this is going to be a long fight to force this overtime. Defiant need this desperately right here to have the advantage for this first round, but Hydron has an EMP, which is a difference maker that Heesang doesn't have. As it gets unleashed, Jumping gets taken down, and Finn's going to answer that with the Kitsune Rush himself. Vindame also has a sound barrier coming in soon, but not before OG is going to be able to use it first. Ultraviolet can also use that Kitsune Rush to keep the rest of Defiant in this fight, while Kalush fights too here. Defiant finally get control over this point without having to burn those 2 ultimates.
Those are going to be huge ultimates for the Shock to be able to get back into this one when you look at the sound barrier and the pulse bomb. But you're really looking at Heesang and whether or not Heesang's going to be able to get another EMP online to finish this out. Jumpin has switched over to the Junker Queen, so being able to limit some of the damage output of the Defiant, but the Kitsune Rush coming out first here from Ultraviolet. Is this enough?
And Kalush also popping the Primal right before he got hacked here too. He falls so low, he needs to get away in time here. Jumpin also gets hacked by Hydron. Sustainability is there for the Defiant, while Ultraviolet is just trying to hold on to the back end here with OG helping him out. It's Proper to try to split them up as the EMP comes in here from Heesang. Proper sends out the Pulse Bomb. They find 3 picks already. The Defiant nowhere to stay on top of this point as the Shock are still able to secure that and flip it in their favor.
With the Kitsune Rush, you were really hoping the Defiant would be able to take down that team fight quickly before you ended up seeing Heesang get that EMP online and be able to use it. But Proper knew exactly what game to play there, and that was to stall for time. So going after the backline there, either it's going to be enough to get a big pick onto OG or Ultraviolet, or you're buying enough time for Heesang to be able to close out the fight for you with a massive EMP. So Shock played that beautifully, and now we're at the point where Shock are on round point. They win this next round, they win the map and the series. Ooh, we're switching over to Gardens as well, which is going to be a little bit more of a closed off point and a lot of high ground to play around again.
It's going to work into what Defiant are trying to roll out with, though. Speedly on top of the maze, so they're going to be able to try to take control over this high ground as a priority here. Proper beat them to it already. So quick already, too. Now they're just waiting for them in the corners. Proper seeing that Kalush being on the right, and he's going to drop down to be able to try to contest him to prevent them from getting on the high ground is the goal here from what the Shock's entry point is. While this point gets unlocked, Defiant just trying to take a more defensive position while they take control over that point, put their toe on there.
High ground is going to be important when you look at Finn being able to get a nice vantage point onto the rest of the Defiant. But at this point, the Defiant are trying to isolate somebody with the Fae, and they find Heesang.
And that's why the Shock weren't trying to fully commit. They just wanted the high ground right there, too. They saw Speedily being on this main. That wall going to be able to isolate Heesang as he makes that swap over to the Sojourn. We're seeing some swaps over, too, as well from Finn. Going on to the Ana, that's going to be able to promote that Nano Blade from coming in from Proper, the win condition that they want to rely on.
The Nano Blade is going to be really impactful here, yes, but you're also looking at Ultraviolet's Batiste as a way to kind of stave that off. The Immortality Field will buy some time here for the Defiant to work around that, but also if you're able to get these picks out right, then I think you prefer that too.
Oh, been having to back away in time. Hydron having the high ground. He finally drops down for me too, but he can get equally just get right back on top of that. The immortality field, like you mentioned, helping them out, but a huge anti from Finn helps the Shock clear the rest of the Defiant out inside of that choke point. Just up to Speedly. Now he's gonna meet the rest of the team in the lobby, and now Shock are gonna be able to take control of this point. But the Defiant did get at least 47% on board.
That's a lot of percentage to work with, especially when you know that you have great crowd control available with the May Blizzard coming online, and you also have the sustain from the sound barrier as well. Ultraviolet's also going to make a switch here. No longer wants to go for something like the Batiste, but the Kiriko instead. So looking at a little bit more mobility when you're trying to play around this high ground, just have that swift step available.
Don't fret. I see you.
Been taking these cheeky head angles too, just in case. They drop from the high ground here, give that nano boost over to Jumpin, who leaps right on top of there. Kalush tries to go for the pin as the Blizzard comes out. Jumpin is still alive. The Shatter, the Blizzard, and now the sound barrier from Defiant to allow the rest of the team to clear up Jumpin, who is this raid boss on the high ground. The fact that he stayed alive for so long, you gotta give that credit over to Finn and Finn Dame. The nano boost, the primal that was used up by Jumpin here too. OG got hit with a huge anti, and the proper clears out the rest of the side room, cleaning up the Defiant in another team fight.
Well, that was the Nano Blade you were looking for, Vicky, and there was no Batiste online anymore to even stand a chance against that, especially when the sound barrier had already been used. That was a great opener for Proper to go for that Blade. But now, San Francisco Shock are approaching that last fight territory mark. They want to be able to close this out here. They're one fight away, Vicky, from being able to secure this map and their first season win. And they have a lot to do with it. Let's see what he's saying can get done with the Sojourn.
It's been so close so far. Ultraviolet has a Kitsune rush now. Comes out the damage on Speedly that you want to look for. Ultraviolet gets a follow-up 2 onto Jumpin, taking him down. The immediate disengage now from the Shock while they clean up the rest of the team as Proper is on the other side. But Dame needs to back away in time. Defiant do claim this point, but at 95% for the Shock, Necra, it is looking so close for the Shock to take this home.
Yep, they've got 2 more team fights to be able to get it done, and they've already just switched over Heesang to the Sombra, so you're going to get a little bit of that passage charge just from the DPS change that we saw for Overwatch 2, and that will leave Heesang 30% closer to getting that EMP online. So even if Defiant win this next fight, there is still one more chance for the Shock here, but the Defiant want to close this out. Hydra goes down already.
Oh no, this is not what you want to see to open up this fight here too, especially since you want to rely on that EMP with their Defiant comp, how it's lined up here too. Nano boost coming in as Jumpin's going to be able to clear up the front. Finn's going to be able to fight Speedly, who isn't able to continuously harass that back line. Jumpin's also going to have the primal for that next fight here too. The sound barrier comes in from Defiant. We're reaching that final fight territory, Necra, and the Shock right now are in the driver's seat, but they lost out on both of their backlines now. Finn and Vin Dame going down is huge here for the Defiant to take control.
Good to see Defiant try to keep contesting this point, but Jumpin is still able to throw some hands. That's buying time for the Shock to be able to come back into this one.
Oh, they gotta find Jumpin. Okay, I was gonna say he lived for a while right there too. Kalush finds him here. Hydra didn't die for nothing after he used that EMP. Proper's still staying alive. Here comes a sound barrier. The overtime ticking away, and Proper's still alive. It's an issue. When Proper wakes up, you know that you're in trouble. The EMP now coming in from Heesang. He finds 2. Defiant out from Kalush. They lose out on Speedly. Hydra's about to meet them back in the spawn, as well as OG, and nobody left from Defiant to hold on to the point as the San Francisco Shock are your first winners for our first series to open up the Overwatch League season.
Amazing stuff. We got a map 5, we got a competitive series, and San Francisco Shock just continuing to shock the world, even with a brand new roster. Vicky, these are it's like half rookies, half incredible pieces from the rest of the Overwatch League. They were able to get a lot done here today, and I think put a lot of the questions to bed about whether or not they're going to be able to hold up for the rest of the season.
But how did they dangle the push map on us the very end like that? The shock is
The
so
drama.
good. They're not playing on ping, by the way, guys. I mean, if you guys are reeling from Pro-Am, we don't count our stocks in the Pro-Am like that for reasons like this, and the shock are all together. No ping. We love to see it, and we love to see parts of O2 Blast coming in and Shine continuously create amazing legends. He's saying it was actually one of the rookies that I had my eye to look out for the rest of the season too. I really like the way that he pairs up with Proper, and Proper doing Proper things. When Proper says, I'm not going to lose, well, he doesn't lose. But Defiant played so well. We cannot take that away from them at the very end, down to the wire. The way that they played was fantastic. Even making the swaps that they needed to make, whether it be swapping in, speedily in, Sam coming in, Hydron sticking in, and then making the adjustment that they had to make. It was not easy for this team, but man, that was one heck of a series.
No, I mean, neither team made it easy to get those map wins by any means. So I just absolutely love to see such a hard-fought battle, and I'm expecting big things out of both of these teams. But the fact of the matter is, San Francisco Shock got the win today, and our MVP of the match is going to be Proper. Got to give so much credit to this player, Vicky, because not only do we have high hopes for him coming into his second season of the Overwatch League as MVP, as Alarm Rookie of the Year, and also just a player on everybody's radars, but he showed up again today in a huge way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know it's been 6 months, but not much can change. I mean, this is Proper we're talking about at the end of the day. He even went, one map with just dying once on the Tracer. He's actually insane. So incredibly talented player out here, showing up that he still has the stuff in the bag with the rest of this team. Working together too. Now he can act like the veteran, as this is his second year in the Overwatch League with the rest of the rookies here in the O2 lineup. Love to see this from Proper. Love to see the impact that he's had. No surprise too, we saw what he was doing to the backline of the Defiant. I mean, if I was Ultraviolet OG, I was not having the time of my life, but I for sure know that Proper was. He really came out. Those post bomb attach rate 78%. I mean, come on, look at the deaths, 2.3 on average.
Are you kidding me? These stats are monstrous in terms of just being able to tell the story of how good of a Tracer player that Proper is. And that's why the desk was giving so much stock to a San Francisco Shock win. Not only because Tracer is highly impactful in this meta, but also because, come on now, it's Proper.
Absolutely, Nekra. That's what I love to see. What an incredible first match, guys. We're going to be tossing it over to the desk on the other side of this break.
there is no better time than right now to visit the official 2023 Overwatch League shop. Pick up your favorite team's 2023 team jerseys today. Man, they look good. Absolutely love the revamped looks. Welcome back, everyone, to Watchpoint, the home of wrinkly brains and really smooth takes. It is I, Zoe, joined by Danny, Jake, as well as Reinforce, the only one with an actual...
That's smart. That's wrinkly.
Yeah, look at
All right, guys. Team, let's go. We got this.
Yeah, can you believe that we all got it right here in a dance?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Danny should have been right.
No.
Thank you.
No.
Even I can admit, as a successful predictor, I can admit that you should have been
Someone
right.
on the top.
We'll get to it.
Lift up the bottom. I do appreciate that. Now, but what a great match. What a treat to, ring in the 2023 season. It was a close match. We saw really good showcases from both of those teams. So let's break it down a little bit. The ups and the downs and the highs and the lows. First impressions.
First impressions, I was actually very impressed by the Toronto Defiant. I think San Francisco Shock, of course, I predicted them because I think they were favored going into this matchup, but Toronto Defiant, they were able to hang with the San Francisco Shock. They played a lot of different compositions, and in general, it felt like Toronto Defiant were really comfortable playing all of these different compositions. So that's a great sign as we kick off this season. They're comfortable in their play, but the mechanical skill of the San Francisco Shock really was just overpowering, especially towards the end.
Yeah, I can totally see how in a different meta, maybe one that's not as focused on the dive mirrors, that Toronto could have been a bit stronger. They looked really comfortable when they're bringing out these heavy rush comps. Sam was a player I was a little bit questioning in this lineup, just wondering, when is he going to play? We've got Speedly's very flexible, and he's probably going to be the Tracer player this year, and Hydron's the core hit scan. Those are typically the dominant roles on DPS. But Sam looked really clean on the Hanzo. I would say that's like his specialist hero, but he looked really impressive, and he'll need to maintain that form throughout the season. But, I mean, as an opener match, it was an impressive performance. But as you said, Johnny, just a little bit of a mechanical difference there. Maybe it was the proper gap, ultimately, that sealed this one.
Proper is him.
Proper, yeah.
It
is him. It is.
Not he, him.
just that one. No, but you can't be too upset, though. Because
I'm not.
Yeah, you lost your prediction, but that's a quality loss.
It was, and I was very thoroughly impressed with Toronto Defiant. And also, I'm happy for the San Francisco Shock. Pro-Am, they were having some tough times, but they are back to their dominant form. And like I said, Proper is just
Proper, yeah, that guy. Can you believe it?
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought that?
MVP.
surprise.
But yeah, I mean, you said you were very impressed. You all were very impressed by the Toronto Defiant. Jake, for looking at that match in particular, yes, they exceeded expectations, but there's some cleanup work still to be done. You have a few examples of that.
Yeah, and as I alluded to earlier, Danny, you should have been right. It should have been a 3-0. That's the call, and I'm taking you on the road.
Oh!
All right, guys.
Professor Lion.
So we can just roll the clip from right here. And so right here, Shock's trying to retake the point. Toronto's in control. The fight hasn't really begun yet, but the flip here for the Shock is able to come in and pause right here. And you see, I mean, this seems like not that important, right? Hydron's got a pick. It's looking so good for the Toronto Defiant. But really, this should be the moment that they win the map. I mean, this should really be like the end of the map. They should be able to take the flip here, or rather keep holding onto the flip. Maybe they get up to 50, 60, 70 before they even finish cleaning up the Shock with this first pick. But instead, because Shock takes the point, they're able to get their own 99% and deny all of that progress for Toronto. So really, this is a spot where Toronto C9s the point, they give it up without really fighting. Even with an opening pick, they're still giving up the point. It's an unforced error that really cost them, and I think ultimately leads to them losing the series, right? Like it would have been a 3-0 had they won this map and snowballed from the series from here. So this one's gonna come back to bite them. They're gonna have to review it, but it's been way too much pressure for these guys on the point. They're bullied off, and then as they come back in, they're just too slow to realize. It was up to OG, it was up to Sam. These guys needed to step on the point when Kaluj got pressured off, but unfortunately they didn't do that in time, and this flip ends up being really costly. Even though they do eventually come back in the round, it wasn't enough to win in the end. So Toronto, they're gonna want to go back in the lab and review this one. Luckily, I've done it for them, so you're welcome. Toronto coaches. Just put this segment on for the boys. All right.
I mean, honestly, just watching that, I think it just grew a wrinkle in my brain. I think that just happened. You might have heard it. It just popped. And it just did.
So that's where the sound came from.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, it happened a couple times as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like come on, guys. At some point, someone's got to step on the point. And it's so costly, as you said, because you're winning a fight, which you need to do. You want to win fights, you can win the maps, but you're not getting rewarded for it. You're not earning percentage, so you're not getting the reward for winning a good fight.
And in Control, it's double impact, right? Because not only are you not making your own progress, the enemy is making progress of their own, right? So you're really falling drastically behind. In a fight, you get the opening pick on. So Kalush, it's understandable. He's got to back off the point, but someone needs to come in for him there and cover. That's really up to the Mei and the Lucio typically in this comp. But they just were a little, half a second slow on the draw. And that's the difference between winning and losing a series when you're up against a team the caliber of the Shock.
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously here to nitpick here. I couldn't have done it any better than they did. But right, let's talk a little bit more about, switches which need to happen or changes which need to happen. Reinforce, you had a great example there. As we were watching the game, you talked about how Toronto did actually a very good job of switching up their approach when they went up against the Shock, which allowed them to win a team fight then as well.
I'm leaving too. I'm going for it. I'm going.
Legs, he is walking.
All right.
Look at that.
So this one goes out to all my Winston players in Plat, okay? So Danny, pay attention to this one. It's
yes, sir.
This one's
all right.
for you.
So what we got here, Blizzard World, point B, Toronto Defiant, they are attacking right here. And what you're going to see from the San Francisco Shock is that the defense is spread out here. So we got Junbin pretty much playing here on the point. Vindime is in the back here with Finn, and Heesang is playing a separate platform. So, I mean, at this point, they're essentially playing like the 1993 Chicago Bulls here, just like the triangle offense. So how do you break this down, really? It's going to be very tough for Toronto Defiant to attack. So do they dive onto Heesang here, for example? Do they dive onto the backline? Well, regardless what option they choose here, the other option is just going to have a free reign. You don't want to leave Heesang on the Hanzo, for example, as a free reign. So as we play this out, we can see this dive coming out from Kalush, speedily, Hydron. They're trying to get to Heesang. But while this is going on, I mean, Proper has already secured a pulse bomb kill onto Ultraviolet, for example, and that's going to be a big difference maker in this fight. So for Toronto Defiant, this is such a difficult kind of like position to engage upon with quick dives, executing fast things, right? So as we take a look at this next fight, we're seeing a different play style from the Toronto Defiant. In this scenario, we can see that they're actually playing indoors. They're hiding on the low ground. And by playing this slower, more cautious play style, that means that they can find an advantage utilizing Hydron, for example. Hydron's going to play on this Sombra. We got the Tracer as well. And this really allows them to poke and prod in a way better way. So we can play this out. We see that the pick comes in from Hydron onto a San Francisco Shock member. And so by not hard executing, by not hard diving, they're poking, they're prodding, they're finding ways to break down the San Francisco Shock rather than just free out the San Francisco Shock to react in like a very predictable kind of manner. So the game becomes unpredictable, and with that, Toronto Defiant, they're going to find an edge, which ultimately is going to lead to a point B cap here. So when you're playing in your quick play games or competitive whatever, don't feel like, oh, I gotta dive, I gotta go hard, I gotta go in on this target. Take it slow. Take a breather, count to 5, and maybe that way you'll find an advantage to close out the fight.
Professor, question?
Yes, indeed.
Whenever I try to go slow when I play Monkey, I always die, though.
Well, they're hiding. They're playing like the line of sight. Don't open yourself up in angles.
I'm always out in the open.
You need
Yeah,
support.
it sounds like a you problem.
Okay. No wonder I see red all over.
Also, this made my day because you used every single tool available.
I tried.
This man has been waiting for telestrations for years. It's finally here.
I tried.
I just wanted to use the TV.
And everyone's happy. So there was a little bit of something for everyone. Thank you guys so much for breaking down the action. And if you, a lovely viewer, are craving more insight, well, I got just a thing for you because we do have a winner's interview right now with Heesang.
Hello, all right. Heesang, can you hear me? Heesang 선수 들리시나요? 안녕하세요.
네, 안녕하세요. Hello.
I hear him.
Hear him.
I did not hear him. Let me do that one more
there
time. Heesang 선수 한 번만 다시 말씀해주세요. Oh, there you go. Hi, Heesang. All right. We have a little bit of short of time, so I'm gonna jump right into the interview. So, first match of the Overwatch League. I mean, you guys played great. What gave you guys the edge to win out against the Toronto Defiant today? 자, 오늘 첫 번째 질문으로 오늘 승리를 거두시면서 굉장히 접전이었던 것 같아요. 희상 선수가 보셨을 때 오늘 센쇼기 어떻게 해서 이기시게 되신 것 같으십니까?
마지막까지 집중을 더 잘했던 것 같고 그런 것 같아요.
Right. I think the main difference was that, our team as a whole, San Francisco Shock, we were focusing better. And also we were just, until the end, we didn't lose focus and we just kept that energy. And I think that was the difference maker for this match. My second question for you is, your, I guess, DPS duo proper, of course, was the Overwatch League MVP last season. How has it been sort of playing with proper? 자, 두 번째 질문으로는 이제 희상 선수도 정말 굉장히 좋은 선수, 잘하신 선수고 이제 같이 딜러진으로 계신 프로퍼 선수와 계속 이렇게 합을 맞추시고 계신데 이거에 대해서 좀 어떠신가요?
좋은 딜러랑 하게 돼서 정말 좋은 것 같고 진짜 잘하는 것 같아요.
It definitely is good, and it's also, I think we have nice things going on, so it definitely feels good to be playing with proper. All right, he's saying that is it for the interview. Thank you so much for your time, and again, big congratulations on the win. 자, 이걸로 인터뷰 마치도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다, 희상 선수.
감사합니다. Bye.
Goodbye. He's saying thank you so much. Congratulations, of course, to the San Francisco Shock for the first W of hopefully many on their board. Now, you gave a shout out earlier to all the Winston mains out there. Well, I got one.
I got
a little treat for all the Ramatra, Doomfist, and Sigma fans because you can rechoice now. There's a tank bundle featuring Ramatra, Doomfist, and Sigma, as well as a weapon charm in your favorite team skin. And it's on sale right now through May the 9th for just 350 league tokens and your souls.
I'm buying that Ram skin the moment I get home tonight.
Dude, look at it. It's actually sick.
Sweet,
it's actually
man.
so nice looking.
That thing is sweet.
Yeah, that is a sweet deal. Now, coming up next, of course, we do have our second series of the day. So let's quickly once more take a look at our schedule so we know exactly what is happening. Washington Justice will face off against the London Spitfire. And, just like the Toronto Defiant, I think our big takeaway in the Pro-Am from the Washington Justice was that they looked really good. They exceeded expectations. If we're looking at that roster right now, is there anything that really stands out for you? Any big takeaways maybe from the Pro-Am?
I think that Alpha Yi has to be a standout performer here for the Washington Justice. I've been criticized a little bit. I wasn't high enough on Alpha Yi. So maybe going back to the proven or not kind of category, maybe this is it for Alpha Yi. Prove it to me, my guy. Ben Best as well. I think looked phenomenal in the Pro-Am as well. I would say that a lot of people didn't have high expectations going into Ben Best. We were questionable about this pickup. Was this really the best tank you could sign? But he really proved it to me in the Pro-Am. I think Ben Best looked spectacular. The pace he played at, pushing the tempo and made it difficult for his opponents. And if they